Right then, there has been so much football at Manchester United over the last few weeks that it's been very, very difficult to talk about anything outside of here's the preview, here's 5 things, here's a review. Everything has just been game. So it's been so difficult to try and sit back, take a breath, and find out how some of the youngsters that we've got out on loan are getting on. And it's not just youngsters, actually, as well as some first-team players that are out there on loan. And there is over a dozen Manchester United players on loan. We're going to be covering the main ones in this, but let us know in the comments if you've seen any others, if you've talked to any others, if you've watched any others, like whatever it is about any of the other ones, bang it in there. So let's have a look how everyone is getting on. So Shoretire is at Bolton. He joined Bolton in January. He's had 10 starts and 2 times he's come off the bench. He's created 2 assists for them. Good opportunity for him to get some minutes in League One. Very, very physically tough league. And for a small athlete the way he is, it could be a real good footing for him. Probably the sort of player that's going to need another loan after this, I would think, before he's going to be ready for first team action. Will Fish is at Hibernian. He's played 12 league games, scored 2 goals. Not bad for a centre-half, so well done to him over there. Matej Kovar has gone to Sparta Prague, 22 years of age now. You wouldn't think he's good enough to play for the first team at this stage, but he has played 17 league games and he's had 7 clean sheets in that, so that I would expect probably results in some sort of a permanent move, whether it's at Sparta Prague or elsewhere for him. Charlie Savage has gone to Forest Green. He's had 6 appearances. He scored a goal the other day after joining them in January. Speaking of scoring goals, Charlie McNeill, Drosden's finest. He's had 11 games with 7 starts and he got his first goal last weekend since joining Newport County. There is a trio of lads that are a part of what United are calling an innovative loan scheme down in the conference with Altrincham. That's Sonny Al-Joffrey, Joe Hugel and Max Oyedele. And it's interesting what's going on with those. Those are still going to train and play games for the academy, but it also means that they are out there playing men's football in a very, very tough league. People diss the conference. The conference is a serious level of football, so don't sleep on that by any stretch of the imagination. So it's good that we've got some players out there doing that. I know there's a goalkeeper that's gone out on Rams bottom as well, so there's plenty of players that are playing their trade in non-league, and maybe that's something we'll see a little bit more of from Manchester United. As they said, they consider it quite innovative. I think there's a keeper gone to Portadown. Ethan Laird. Let's talk about Ethan Laird next. Ethan's been a player on a lot of United fans' radars over the past few years because of excellent performances that he's had on loan and tasty little cameos that we've seen at United as well. This year's loan move to QPR probably seen as his last chance for a lot of people to prove himself that he is a worthy Manchester United player. He's been loaned out 4 times during his United career, but he's only made 5 appearances for United, all of which have been in cup competitions. He's now 21. He's been performing well for QPR at right back, but they've had a topsy-turvy season with managerial changes which have affected all sorts, and especially that when you have a young player on loan, the development of that said player isn't on the mind of a new manager just coming in, because he's probably not going to be there for very long, or a manager that's fighting for his life and just about to be sacked. So tough circumstances for him, but he's had plenty of game time in the Championship, 27 appearances, he's got a goal and 2 assists. Does he have a future at United? I wouldn't write him off. He's definitely more talented than Aaron Wan-Bissaka and certainly more capable with the ball at his feet. Defensively, he reads the game better, I think, than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He doesn't have the same level of one-to-one tackling ability Wan-Bissaka has, because that's otherworldly. But I don't think he's far off. And if Aaron Wan-Bissaka can be given an opportunity, then and can impress us the way he has, then I absolutely think Ethan Laird could come back and impress us the way Wan-Bissaka has impressed us, if not more so. You've got Ethan Galbraith down at Salford, and he's doing really well. So Northern Irishman has played most of his football this season as a number 8 for Salford. He's got 4 goals and 3 assists. Again, 27 league games he's played so far. And he's one that's a little bit similar to Laird. He was on loan last season at Doncaster and hasn't really had a crack in the first team. United obviously don't think he's good enough yet, but don't want to sell him. I think he's got a real energy and tempo to the way he plays, but bridging, doing that in League 2, to be able to do that at the top end of the Premier League, not just in the Premier League, whether it's at Manchester United or elsewhere, I would probably lean to it being elsewhere, but there's teams in the Premier League that would definitely do well to have him in the team, especially, he's got a real energy and a real bite and a lot of character about the way he plays. I could easily see him lining up for an Everton, or Joe Rothwell's just recently started turning out and doing well for Bournemouth. And I think he's got a higher ceiling than Joe Rothwell did. So, yeah, I absolutely think that there's a future in the game there for Ethan, whether or not it's at United. I think United, especially if we get the Qataris, are probably going to blow us out the water with who they sign. And to be an academy player, I think at 21, you're probably not going to get that opportunity unless something drastic happens. Which leads us on to the next one, really, as well. Unless you're a mega superstar with high potential, and Hannibal kind of fits that bill. He's made 31 league appearances for Birmingham. He's yet to really, truly make an impact. He's been playing comfortably all right in those games, but he's not really took a game by the scruff of the neck. He has got 5 assists. They're a mid-table side. He's got 1 goal. He's skillful, he's feisty, there's a lot of attitude about him. He's just not been performing in the attacking sense. You're only seeing 1 key pass per game from him. A player played as an attacking midfielder or a number 10, you want to see a lot more than that. To especially when you're playing in the Championship, you want to be hitting 3 or 4 or 5 a game. That's the sort of expected standard that you'd have to hit in the first team. He isn't doing that. He's also struggled with his passing accuracy, but I don't necessarily have a drama with that because you want your creative players to be creating. You have a drama with it when he's not getting the key passes, when he's not actually creating anything. So he's got 71% pass completion. It's in and around the Bruno kind of mark, but it isn't in and around the Bruno kind of mark in terms of the chances that he's creating with it. So he's got to step up the quality in what he's doing there. Like I said, he's still young and he's playing in the Championship. It's rare young players do well in the Championship because it's such a brutal league. But he's playing men's football. He is getting involved in games. If he can start to produce a little bit more in those games, I think there's probably a player there. And there's certainly a player there. Whether or not it's good enough for United is another debate, but there's definitely a player in there. Alvaro Fernandez. Now, he's not made a first-team appearance for Manchester United, but this is a player that's absolutely flying on loan at Preston North End. We signed him on a free transfer from Real Madrid back in 2020, and he performed well for the under-23s last season where he got 4 goals, 6 assists from left-back. And he solidified himself as a real solid, dependable starter in the Championship at Preston. He's played 34 games, all competitions for Preston this season. He's got 4 assists. He missed 4 games, that's it, through injury. But he's been a very common name on a team sheet, and he even got himself into Championship Team of the Week recently as well. He's been able to utilise that excellent dribbling that we saw while he was at United, and he's moved into a bit more of a wing-back sort of role since he's been at Preston. Now, again, only 19. It's allowed him to show off his flair. It's allowed him to show off the talent that he's got and the tenacity that he has up and down that left sort of flank. And I think this is a player that's probably put himself in a really good spot when it comes to Ten Hag in the summer. I don't think you're going to see him displace Malacia or Luke Shaw, but having a third player in the mix that you could, let's say one of them's injured, he becomes the stand-in backup or the one that comes in and gets minutes rotationally. I don't think that'd be a bad thing in the slightest. So very well done to Alvaro. Possibly the most impressive one that we've seen. And, we talk about his future. His future could literally be next season. We do have Malacia and Shaw, but players do pick up injuries, and you could really see a door being open for him there. Especially when you got another player on loan, a left back that I just don't think he's going to come back. Alex Telles. So he started the season on the bench at Sevilla, and he's slowly been eased into the starting lineup. He's now made 27 appearances, and he's got 3 assists. But he's only started 10 out of 18 appearances in La Liga, and he played 26 times for United last season, but he was only really getting game time because of the drop-off in Luke Shaw's performance. He was decent going forward. Defensively left a hell of a lot to be desired, especially in the hefty transition of the Premier League, and he just didn't really deliver in that. Shaw's back playing in form. Malacia has been signed. You've got a far younger and far more promising prospect in Alvaro. I don't see a future for Telles at United. I think he's going to be one of the first people that we arrange a deal for and get him out. Eric Bailly. Oh, man. He's been on loan at Marseille, and I think it's safe to say that he's struggled. He's had struggles with injuries, and he's had issues when he's played. I think it's fair to say he's only had 4 starts in Ligue 1 for Marseille. He did feature regularly in the Champions League, but has suffered knocks. United was unpredictable, to say the least. And when fit, he could absolutely look class, but he was also 3 seconds away from an absolute howler. I think United have gone into the more dependable, reliable than the hot sauce style of defending. And as entertaining as it was, and listen, while you're shit, you might as well have fun, right? So Bailly, Rojo, those sorts of centre-halves, you deal with them when you're in your, let's be a little bit wild phase. We're settling down now with 2 centre-halves that we can rely on, and Eric Bailly isn't one of them, unfortunately. So I think he'll be moved on at the end of the season. And then we have possibly the duel in the loanees at the moment. Alvaro's running him close, but Amad Diallo has had a very, very positive loan spell. Went out on loan to Sunderland, started the season, and has been looking fantastic. Started on the right, has recently moved a little bit more centrally, and he made just 1 start in the first 8 games, and it looked a little bit like what happened last season with him, where he just didn't get a shake of it, and you're like, he's obviously not doing it in training. What's going on? I think we've wasted a load of cash here. But after just making 1 start in his first 8 games, he's gone on to score 9 goals, get 3 assists, and he's played 29 championship games, which is not bad for a 20-year-old just finding his feet in men's football. He's Sunderland's joint highest goal scorer this season, and they absolutely love him. Will he get a chance at United? Yeah, I think there will be a chance for him. He'll certainly get the opportunity on pre-season, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him maybe go on loan again next year. He is a right winger, but he's also been sort of played and deployed a lot more central for Sunderland, and they've looked good when he's done that. So I think long-term planning will see him brought in. Really good vision, fast feet, knows where the net is. That's a good thing. He's impressed and he's scored goals in a tough league. There is no guarantee for him, but there's a lot of time for things to change. And we're not done. Dean Henderson. Now, this is an interesting one because a couple of years ago, and Dean Henderson sort of alluded to this in that interview that, well, he had the right to do, but I don't think he should have done. Not if he wanted to stick around at United anyway. I think he burnt his bridges there. But maybe it was already burnt in his eyes. He came out and said, David De Gea and myself were going head-to-head, and I was promised that I would be given the opportunity to start. And you could kind of see that. It didn't really make sense. The form that Dean Henderson was in after his success on loan, coming in, and he came in and he impressed. For whatever reason, United decided to stick with De Gea, and Dean Henderson spat his dummy out, which, you know, maybe that's fair enough for him. He gave an interview with Forest that basically sounded like he'd give up on attempting to be United's number one, and that he was resigned to the fact that they was always going to favour De Gea at him. It's an interesting one because I think Dean Henderson could have gone and done it, but that weird couple of years where he was sort of fighting with De Gea and not really getting a sniff, I think has really hampered his development. And I think his outburst in the interview that he gave has probably put the nail in the coffin. I don't think he comes back into the squad. I think you've got Tom Heaton, who is still first team level in the Premier League, if maybe not at the top end, but certainly a first team goalkeeper in the Premier League, could easily be starting for several teams. I think the fact Ten Hag wasn't really asked about letting Dean Henderson go. United will probably look to bring in a keeper. Maybe they'll bring in a younger one to compete with De Gea. Maybe they'll bring in one and get rid of both De Gea and Henderson. I think there's a big decision on that to be had, especially with the status of De Gea's contract. So I don't think it'll be Dean Henderson either way. But that's where everyone's up to on loan. Let me know if there's any that I've missed that you've been watching. Let me know how they've been getting on in the comments. And I'll catch you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.